Rahim granted 40-day parole, his 15th release since 2017. Amit Shah sounds poll bugle in Tamil Nadu, attacks DMK over Hindu sentiments during visit to poll-bound state. Uttarakhand government considers restricting non-Hindu entry into Haridwar as Chief Minister Pushkar Dhami cites need to preserve the city's religious sanctity. All right, breaking news coming in. Prime Minister Modi has written an article on Somnath temple saying Somnath is the eternal proclamation of India's soul. The temple, which was attacked by foreign invaders, whose agenda was demolition, not devotion. It is defined by the unbreakable courage of crores of children of Bharat Mata. Refers to Nehru's antipathy. Nehru was clearly unhappy with the very idea of Somnath being rebuilt and inaugurated with grandeur. This is what he has written as well. For more on this, we have Payal Mehta live with us. Payal, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. If you could just take us through the major highlights of what Prime Minister Modi is trying to say here.
Well, what the Prime Minister is trying to really say over here is that it is the indomitable spirit of Bharat Mata that has actually prevailed over the last many years and for decades and decades together as well. The Prime Minister, of course, over here is making a reference to the Somnath temple, which actually, got attacked first in 1026, when 1026 years AD, when, the first attack happened. Mahmud Ghazni's attack is something the Prime Minister has referred to. From there to now being a full-fledged Jyotirling, a full-fledged temple which has a complex in place as well. How the indomitable spirit of India has really prevailed over the years and how civilizational existence has been very, very dominant. So Prime Minister said that, if India can endure all these sacrifices over these decades, then India can certainly look up to having a Viksit Bharat by 2047. That's what the Prime Minister really has highlighted. He's highlighted the entire series of attacks that have been there on Somnath. He also stresses very, very clearly on what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru did, in 1951 when the temple was supposed to be opened. And then the President Rajendra Prasad wanted to go for the inauguration, but it was deeply discouraged by Prime Minister Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Of course, Rajendra Prasad did not listen to Prime Minister Nehru then and went and inaugurated the temple as well. So what it really refers to is of great significance, especially in today's day and age, when the world seems to be crumbling on one front, but faith actually pulls you through the worst of crisis. That's the larger message the Prime Minister has tried to give in this blog that he's put out.
Absolutely, Payal. I was just going to come to that as well. While he talks about Jawaharlal Nehru's antipathy, he also spoke about, as you mentioned just right now, that it has really brought people together. He said that the temple continues to awaken the mind and the soul. Now, in light of all that we are seeing happening today, how do you assess the significance of these comments as well?
Well, in today's world, when there is so much of hatred around, there is so much of fanaticism around, the Prime Minister says that, these things may be there, but faith is something which pulls you through everything. Faith is permanent. And the reflection of the Somnath temple, the glory at which it stands, is completely a reflection of India's faith, India's belief in its principles, in its civilizational heritage that India really takes forward. So the Prime Minister refers this to the modern day and age as well, and also says that this is going to, these kind of principles, these kind of civilizational beliefs are going to help us pull through to the next many decades as well, and therefore Viksit Bharat can certainly become a reality. So the Prime Minister begins by talking about, what the Somnath temple and what it really means. Remember, the Prime Minister himself chairs the Somnath Temple Trust as well. He's been somebody who's been a devotee of Lord Shiva and has been going to many Jyotirlings across the entire country. But Somnath, which is in his home state, is obviously the first Jyotirling in our country and is going to have great significance and is going to have great importance in the Prime Minister's life.
Right now, of course, while we talk about these comments and while we talk about what he's written, we are also expecting some reactions, as is always the case. How do you think this is going to be received?
Well, what the Prime Minister is stating is just stating facts. He's not bringing out anything on his own. He's not making any reference to anything which is the figment of his imagination. What has been there in the books of history is something which the Prime Minister is really referring to. It is a part of history that letters were written by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister, discouraging, saying that you do not need to promote the Hindu faith so much at that point in time. But Rajendra Prasad, who was the president back then, did not adhere to it. So obviously, all those reflections are there. And in the Prime Minister's blog and in the details that are available, you can see the various letters which have been attached, which actually tells you that this is not a figment of the Prime Minister's imagination. He's just stating the facts. And he's reminding the country once again that it is 1,000 years since a Somnath temple was first attacked. Somnath temple has stood the test of time. And here it is, 1,000 years later, it still stands as a true test of one's faith and belief.
All right, Pal, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this and your analysis of this also. We'll, of course, continue to track this closely. All right, let's shift our focus now. The Supreme Court is set to pronounce judgment on the bail pleas of Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam, Gulfisha and others accused in the Delhi riots' larger conspiracy case. The Delhi High Court had earlier denied bail to the accused, citing their alleged role in conspiracy. The High Court noted that conspiratorial violence under the guise of protest cannot be permitted and must be regulated by state machinery. The High Court had observed that Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam's roles cannot be brushed aside, as prima facie evidence suggests that they were among the first to act after the CAB was passed, creating WhatsApp groups and distributing pamphlets calling for protests. The High Court has also noted that their alleged inflammatory speeches, prima facie, indicate their involvement in conspiracy. So all eyes are on the big verdict today. And we'll, of course, take you through the many charges that are against Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam and others as well. Let me just take you through what we're looking at here. The charges against Umar Khalid, let's just go through this first. Terrorism and conspiracy under UAPA Section 13, unlawful activities. 16 terrorist acts, 17 charges of raising funds for terrorist acts, and 18 charges of conspiracy. Then murder and violence under Section 302, 307 attempted murder and 107 rioting, 148 rioting with deadly weapons. Other charges include 153A promoting enmity between groups, 120B criminal conspiracy, Arms Act, which was charged under sections 25 and 27 for the alleged use of arms. So these are the various charges that we are looking at against Umar Khalid. So all big eyes on that verdict today. For more on this, we have Ananya Bhatnagar joining us live from the Supreme Court. Thank you so much, Ananya, for joining us. Let me just come to you. Of course, we're looking at the various charges against Umar Khalid. It's going to be a big verdict. All eyes are on this major verdict. What are we looking at here?
Well, absolutely. In fact, it is a crucial verdict that is to come from the topmost court of the country. And this is a bench of Justice Arvind Kumar and N.V. Anjaria that will be pronouncing this particular verdict, wherein the bail pleas of Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam, Gulfisha, Fatima, and various other people would be decided by the topmost court of the country. Remember that we have seen how there has been, in fact, letters being written by Zoran Mamdani and various others in order to support Umar Khalid and others in order, as far as this case is concerned. Though the High Court, when it had denied them a bail in this particular case, had said that, these are the people who had themselves delayed the trial in this particular case and not the prosecution or the court that had delayed the trial in this particular case. And that is exactly why, the High Court had actually denied them bail. Very clearly, it's saying that Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam were two key instrumental people as far as this bail is concerned. Not only that, what is also very important to note is that the Delhi police has very categorically told the topmost court of the country that this was not just mere riots or mere protests. These were, in fact, a regime change operation that was being operated by at the hands of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, and hence the bail should not be given, is what, in fact, the Delhi police has gone on to say and claim before the topmost court of the country. But what happens today is something that only time can tell us. But very clearly, at this point, Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, both charged with serious sections of, in fact, 120B of, in fact, the IPC. Not only that, apart from that, they've also been charged under various sections of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, a very stringent law. And the most important point as far as this bail is concerned is that whether they'll be able to satisfy the rigorous bars under Section 43D2 of, in fact, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or not, because this is, in fact, a bar that they need to, surpass in order to secure a bail in this particular case, because UAPA is a very, very stringent law. And this bar under Section 43D2 is something that they need to actually surpass in order to secure a relief for themselves.
All right, Nanya, also joining me right now on the broadcast is Simran Babbar, who also is getting us the latest from JNU. Okay. Simran, of course, let's just take a look at what we're looking at today. There are a lot of emotions running high as well. Have you been able to talk to people, get a sense of what the consensus on ground is?
Well, absolutely. As my colleague has already stated about the significance of today as far as this case is concerned, and over 5 years that in fact both Sharjeel Imam and also Umar Khalid and other accused also in this particular matter have been waiting for. It's a very emotional day, as you also clearly stated, but at the same time, you know, at JNU, the condition is not really that visible in terms of people really speaking out as far as the JNU SFI or anybody of the students body union is concerned. Going on to say also that in the past records, there have been many statements pouring in for the support of both of these and many other accused who have been charged with serious allegations of hatching a very serious larger conspiracy pan-India at the time in 2020, where they have been also accused under the UAPA Stringent Act. And that is why also as this hearings get started in the Apex Court today, more action is also expected to be unfolding on the ground as far as JNU is concerned. While there has been many protests earlier backing both of these and many others who are also accused who have moved the court for their bail pleas, but at the very same time, so far there is going to be in fact a little wait while we also see more groups or the heads of the student union coming forward right now and speaking to the media, or at least voicing their support once again on the day that they have been waiting for, and also backing both of these accused in this very particular case in the Apex Court.
All right, Simran, thank you so much for that. Of course, as I mentioned, we are getting various reactions to this as well. Let's just listen to this.
Our argument has been that it has been 5 years since these accused have been in custody. The trial has not proceeded, and that is completely the fault of the police and the prosecution. What they did was they filed a charge sheet, and then they kept saying that the investigation is ongoing for the next 3 years. On that basis, they said that the accused do not deserve bail, and they said that even the arguments on charge, the trial cannot go ahead. Now, when the prosecution is responsible for delaying the trial, why should the accused suffer? That is our first point. The second point is that there is absolutely no case against any of the accused.
All right, Ananya, let me just come back to you. Of course, it's also important to understand and perhaps break this down for our viewers why this verdict is so important, why the lens is on Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, and what the Delhi High Court has observed as well. If you could just break that down for us.
Well, absolutely. In fact, this is a very, very crucial verdict, because not only it is with regards to the bail of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, but also it can set the tone of the law very, very straight as far as the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is concerned, whether there can be a breach of that 43D2 bar as far as, people like Umar Khalid or Sharjeel Imam is concerned. Not only that, the High Court had, while it had denied bail to, in fact, Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid, very categorically stated that it is not the prosecution who had actually delayed this particular trial, but the accused themselves. It was a connivance of these accused persons, at least the ones who were out on bail and the ones who were inside. It was a connivance between them, and hence the trial in this case was actually delayed by filing frivolous applications or by not appearing on the particular dates that the court had actually asked them to. And that is exactly why, this is a very, very crucial case as far as, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is concerned. And more importantly, Umar Khalid, and if I may tell you that I was one of those who had seen those riots by my own eyes, and very clearly at that particular point of time, Umar Khalid or Sharjeel Imam had flew from Delhi, and in fact they were the ones who had actually somewhere or the other planned. And it is also what the Delhi police's charge sheet goes on to say, that these were the people who left the national capital in order to go away from that lens of being under this particular conspiracy. But at this particular point of time, these are the people who are at the forefront, who were the main brains behind this whole conspiracy. And in fact, the Delhi police has very categorically told the Supreme Court this was a regime change operation that was being operated by these particular persons, and whether or not they will be granted bail is something that we'll have to wait and watch for.
Absolutely. Now, to that, Simran, let me just come to you as well and ask you, what is the sense that you are getting? Of course, will they or won't they walk out? That is really the big question. We're going to have to wait and watch. But there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of anticipation and apprehension of what's to come as well.
Absolutely, on the expected lines, this is a very significant time, and for also, in fact, what happens from this point of time is something that we will have to also wait and see how the hearing goes on, and my colleague will also give the details appropriately as well on that matter, while we understand the legal part of it. But as far as the history goes on to what has happened post 2020 in JNU as well, there have been number of times where clashes have erupted, and on these note of how exactly there has been a delay in the trial in both of these cases of when they have moved the bail pleas, and also over several occasions while the advocates and the advocates representing Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid have presented before the court that there has been a larger conspiracy that the Delhi police is hatching, and they are being in fact hatched in this conspiracy, while there have been many arguments earlier as well that have also proved on that there was a bigger plan indeed during the coinciding of the time of the then US president. But at the very same time, in JNU so far, while there has been much anticipation over what really happens today in the apex court, many times even in October 2023, 2 years back, in fact there were protests that have lodged and clashes erupted in the JNU in fact campus as well, while the student-led union from the ABVP, while also in clashes with the SFI and DSF, clashed over when the posters they came up of Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid both being depicted as Ravan, while there were allegations. So all of this has been going on for a long time as far as tensions continue to be prevalent on the ground in the campus of the JNU as well.
All right, Simran, thank you so much for that. Now, of course, there's a lot to unpack here, and we'll continue to bring you all the developments on that front through the course of the day. But it's also important to talk about why the lens is on Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid and what the Delhi High Court observed as well. The role assigned to them cannot be brushed aside. Now, that's the major thing here. That's what they've said. Prima facie, first ones to act after the CAB was passed, alleged inflammatory and provocative speeches. The other one here, acts indicate towards their role in alleged conspiracy. Absence before riots not enough to mitigate their role. So these are some of the observations by the High Court as well. And this is why the lens is on Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid. And of course, they are saying that the role assigned to them cannot be brushed aside. Now, and let me just come to you on that also. This is what the Delhi High Court has observed, and this is what you've said as well. If we were to talk about those representing Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid and other conspirators, alleged conspirators here, pardon me, do you think they have enough evidentiary support to probably secure a favorable verdict?
Well, it is a very, very tough task because, as I told you, the 43D2 is a very, very stringent bar. If at all, you have to secure a bail under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. And whether the Supreme Court would lower that bar is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. But more importantly, what was the role of Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid is very, very important to note, because Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, as per the Delhi Police's charge sheet and as per the investigators themselves, what they go on to say is that these were the people who had hatched this criminal conspiracy. These were the masterminds of this criminal conspiracy as far as, these protests, which were, it was, in the garb of these peaceful protests that this violence had actually taken place. And the plan was to do actually violence and not in the garb of these peaceful protest, is what the Delhi police's charge sheet goes on to say. It says that these were not organic protests. These were not organic agitations against, in fact, the Citizenship Amendment Act. These were, in fact, these were protests and agitations that were in order to create violence, and these were in the garb of these. Protests that this violence had actually taken place, is what the Delhi police charge sheet go on to say. And Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid were at the forefront of, in fact, this particular violence that had erupted in the national capital, that claimed 53 lives, and more than 200 people were actually injured, which included almost 100 policemen as well. So very clearly at this particular juncture, whether the Supreme Court would be granting the bail or would actually not suffice the bar of 43D2 as far as the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is concerned, is something that we'll get to know at 10:30 a.m. when this verdict would actually be pronounced by the topmost court of the country.
All right. Now, Simran, let me just come to you on that as well. As Ananya mentioned, of course, here Sharjeel Imam and others, they have other appellants here. They have sought relief on the basis that this has been a stretched out trial and stretched out incarceration that we're looking at here. On the other hand, the High Court did observe that, of course, a hurried trial here would be detrimental. Now, how strong do you think that serves as a basis for any sort of relief for them?
Well, absolutely. In fact, as we see at this point of time when we speak of this case, there has been a complete argument over how the delayed trial has also been witnessed in this case from the families of all the accused as well. In the past as well, as Sharjeel Imam and many supporters have come forward and said that there has been a deliberate delay of the trial, and specifically given the charges that have been imposed on both of these accused and many others who are linked to this case. But as we speak right now, while the Supreme Court is going to, after reserving this order in December, hear this today, more clarity is going to come forward, and we see as how exactly the families of all of these accused and the supporters who have been backing Sharjeel Imam and also these people who have been linked to the protest in 2020 are also going to speak up.
All right, Simran and Ananya, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We'll, of course, continue to get our viewers all the latest on this with you guys there. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Let's just shift our focus for now. The other big breaking that we're getting right now, this is an exclusive. There's a shocking spike in recoveries, with the last year recording the highest seizures of IEDs, AK series weapons, ammunition and explosives in past 5 years from Indo-Pakistan and Indo-Bangladesh border. Official data shows the surge in ammunition and AK series arms is unprecedented, pointing to a dangerous build-up of terror logistics. This escalation is particularly alarming. We're given to understand in the wake of two major terror attacks in India, one in Delhi and Pahalgam, suggesting these were not isolated incidents but part of a wider, well-armed terror network. This is the latest that we're getting right now. We're learning of a shocking spike in recoveries in the last year, recording the highest seizure of IEDs. For more on this, we have Ankur Sharma live with us. Ankur, thank you so much for joining me. Please put this into perspective for us.
Yes, certainly. So this time in last 5 years, I am talking about since 2020 till 2025 November. So according to the BSF data, which guards Indo-Pakistan border and Bangladesh border, so their official data has clearly show that there is a clear and sustained alarm rise in the recovery of not only arms but also ammunition, IED materials and explosives between these 5 years. In last 5 years, there have been massive spike, and according to the officials, they have also noted a trend which reflects that there is constantly a war-like stores, push for a war-like stores in India, and even after the deployment and surveillance, heavy deployment and surveillance, especially after Operation Sindoor, the recoveries are continuously, in process, and almost every day the security forces on the borders continuously, recovery all these things. And if I tell you the figures, in last 5 years, the AK series weapon have increased almost 15 to 20%, and the ammunition, which has increased 700% in last 5 years. The recovery has increased 717 to be precise. Also detonators, which has increased 384% in last 5 years, explosives by weight have increased by 18%, and wireless sets, this is the most common communication system. Normally, all the terror outfits and terrorists use wireless sets to avoid getting intercepted. This has increased by 590% in last 5 years. From 2020, this was the wireless sets which were recovered by the BSF was 10 only, and now it has increased to 69 this year. So certainly these percentages show that there is a constant growth, and the explosive growth is concentrated in ammunition detonators and communication equipments. This also, shows that these two terror incidents which India witnessed last year in 2025 is not, they are not isolated incidents.
Right.
Certainly it is part of a bigger, larger conspiracy. Back to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. Of course, we are getting more developments on that front, which we'll continue to track as well. With that, we're going to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We have breaking news coming in that an AAP Sarpanch called Jarnail Singh was shot dead during a wedding at a resort in Amritsar. Viewers, two outsiders opened fire, killing him on the spot. Police have identified the accused and said arrests will be made soon. Shiromani Akaidal Sukhbir Singh Badal strongly condemned the killing of the village Sarpanch Jarnail Singh, who was shot dead during a wedding function in Amritsar. He said the murder reflects a deeply alarming trend, citing recent shootings in the state. We have CNN News 18's Rajiv Sharma joining us live right now. Rajiv, good morning and thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. So, sir, अभी तक हमें identity और motive of the attackers के बारे में क्या मालूम है? राजीव जी, क्या आप हमें सुन सकते हैं? So, we're receiving breaking information from Amritsar that an AAP Sarpanch called Jarnail Singh was shot dead during a wedding at a resort in Amritsar. Viewers, he was an Aam Aadmi Party Sarpanch and he was shot dead during a wedding function at a resort in Amritsar, triggering shock and concern over security at public gatherings. According to police, two outsiders opened fire, killing him on the spot before fleeing the scene. Authorities say the accused have been identified and arrests are expected soon as investigations continue to determine the motive behind the killing. An Aam Aadmi Party Sarpanch, we're given to understand his name is Jarnail Singh of Valtoha village. He was shot dead during a wedding function at a resort in Amritsar, triggering shock and concern over security at public gatherings. According to police, two unidentified outsiders opened fire, killing him on the spot before fleeing the scene. However, authorities say the accused have been identified and arrests are expected soon as investigations continue to determine the motive behind the killing. We're given to understand that an AAP Sarpanch, Jarnail Singh, was shot dead during a wedding at a resort in Amritsar and two outsiders opened fire, killing him on the spot. Police have identified the accused and said arrests will be made soon. Shiromani Akaidal Sukhbir Singh Badal strongly condemned the killing of the village Sarpanch Jarnail Singh, who was shot dead during a wedding function in Amritsar. He said the murder reflects a deeply alarming trend, citing recent shootings in the state. Badal alleged that targeted killings in public spaces have become routine and blamed Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann's government, calling it a complete failure of policing and demanding accountability. And we have Rajiv Sharma back with us live. Rajiv ji, good morning.
Very good morning.
जी, क्या आप हमें बता सकते हैं ये अटैकर्स के आइडेंटिटी और मोटिव के बारे में हमें अभी तक क्या जानकारी मिली है?
देखिए, अभी तक ये तो नहीं पता चल पाया कि ये लोग कौन थे, कहाँ से आए थे, लेकिन इनकी एक सीसीटीवी फुटेज जो सामने आई है उसमें क्लियरली नजर आ रहा है कि एक बाइक पर सवार होकर ये दोनों लोग पहुंचते हैं और सीधा रिजॉर्ट के अंदर घुसने के बाद जब यहाँ पे जरनैल सिंह जो बैठे हुए थे राउंड टेबल,
Welcome back to CNN News 18. Thank you so much for staying with us. Here's the latest that we're tracking for you. All eyes on Venezuela. The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting today to discuss the U.S. military operation in Venezuela and the capture of Nicolás Maduro. The operation has spiked global reactions, with some condemning it as a violation of sovereignty, others supporting it as a strike against narco-terrorism, especially those in Venezuela calling it the end of Nicolás Maduro's illegal regime, is what they call it. The US had earlier imposed sanctions on Venezuela and offered a $50 million bounty for Maduro, accusing him of leading a narco-terrorist network, while Maduro's government called the action an imperialist attack. The UNSC meeting, requested by Colombia and backed by Russia and China, will examine the implications for international law as well as regional stability, with the UN Secretary General warning of a dangerous precedent being set here. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump escalated pressure on Venezuelan and Colombian leaders, warning Vice President Rodriguez of harsher consequences than Maduro and accusing Colombia's leadership of drug trafficking as well. So this is where things stand when it comes to the capture of Nicolás Maduro and the change of power in Venezuela. We're also now being joined by Siddhant Mishra for more on this. Siddhant, here is a clear example of unrestrained, unregulated US assertion of its power. What do you think?
Well, that's right. In fact, since yesterday, if you look at the commentary from the Trump administration officials, President Trump himself, perhaps, they're very clear in sending a signal out to the other world leaders that, look, if you will not fall in line, you will meet the same fate. This warning is especially for the leaders of countries in the Caribbean, in the Western Hemisphere, Colombia, Cuba, etc. And in fact, President Trump, in fact, by taking their names, their country's name, has been openly threatening them that either fall in line or you will also be meeting the same fate. Now, there is, everybody wants to know what's going to be the future of Venezuela. So what US forces did the other day, they captured Maduro, they brought him to New York. Now he will be put on trial under the US laws. But, immediately the Supreme Court of Venezuela appointed the vice president of Venezuela, the interim president, and this has been mandated in the constitution of Venezuela. Now, initially, US had this understanding that vice president will side with the US Trump administration, will do what they want her to do. But right after taking over as the interim president, he addressed nation. And in fact, in that address, she said that that Maduro is the legit president of Venezuela, and she also demanded United States to set Maduro free. Now, that perhaps was something which United States was not expecting. Also, very important to highlight here that President Trump may be saying that US companies are going to invest in the oil infrastructure in Venezuela, refurbish the infrastructure, etc., etc. But the fact is that these oil key infrastructures are being run by generals in Venezuela.
Right.
So how US is going to navigate through this challenge, whether US is going to send troops on ground, whether we are looking at a possibility of more military operations inside Venezuela, that is something which everybody is waiting to see.
Siddhant, I believe it's important to also understand that two things can be true. Of course, no one really has to be a supporter of Maduro to realize that the United States intervention in Venezuela is extremely problematic. That being said, as Trump continues to flex his flex muscle here. Now, he has mentioned a couple of things which are not just frivolous comments anymore in light of what we've seen happen in Venezuela. He's spoken of Greenland, saying that the United States needs it from a national security point of view. He's spoken of Colombia as well, jokingly saying that Operation Colombia sounds good to me. Of course, we're talking about the comments against Rodriguez as well. Going forward, what do you think how do you think the situation will evolve?
Well, it is indeed a challenging times, and perhaps something which were never expected from the United States, because on one end, United States call itself the protector of the free word, the leader of the free word, believer in the rules-based word order, etc., etc. On the other end, the way this operation was conducted, president was captured and was brought to the United States and will be put on trial under the US laws, is something which has taken the entire world by surprise. In fact, the countries like Russia and China have condemned it, but there are other countries which have not condemned this military aggression by the United States. But definitely, they are also not very comfortable with such U.S. forces carrying out such operations, violating the sovereignty of any country. So all eyes are going to be on the UNSC meeting, which will take place today in New York. In fact, this meeting has been called by Colombia, backed and supported by China and Russia. Perhaps it would really be interesting to see that what positions the UNSC members will be taking on this military aggression by the United States government.
Absolutely. So all eyes on that UNSC meet and how efficacious it will be in finding a resolution to what we're seeing happen right now. Now, Colombia is strengthening its border with Venezuela after the US strike. CNN's David Culver reports. Take a look at this.
A heavy reinforced military presence on the Colombian side of the Colombia-Venezuela border. And you can see 3 armored vehicles here, a 4th over there. But it's not just military that has set up here on this side of the border, but also we're told humanitarian aid in case anything happens with regards to a rush of individuals coming here into Colombia. Now let me set the stage a bit for you. This is the border crossing where we are, Cucuta, Colombia. On the other side, you enter Venezuela. And you can see on a Sunday morning, traffic is moving rather calmly back and forth. This is pretty typical if you talk to locals. The only difference is the military presence and the press, and you've got many of individuals from media across Latin America who have set up here to get a sense of what could happen next. Now, Cucuta is really an interesting town in that this is a pressure valve, if you will, a real indicator of what could come next. This is a place that really saw a lot of the surge of outward migration from Venezuela in the past decade plus. Here in Colombia, you have the largest diaspora of Venezuelans, some 3 million according to some estimates. And of course you had Venezuelans who passed through here to then continue up into Central America, through Mexico and into the US. Many of them we've met along the way in recent years. And a lot of them reference the instability, the uncertainty, the insecurity of living in Venezuela. So the folks here who have made their lives in Cucuta, for example, they were out in the streets late into the night. In fact, we touched down just before midnight and folks were still out celebrating. You had families draping themselves in flags. There were a lot of emotions. People seemingly very happy. What's interesting is when you speak to those individuals, those who have been, say, 10 plus years out of Venezuela, say they have their lives here in Colombia. No matter what changes in Venezuela, they have no real desire to move back. But those who have been here less than that, and it seems to be a rough average of 10 years or so, say they do want to go home. They want to try to reestablish their lives. So this could be a place where we see a few things. You could see folks who are fearing the chaos, fearing more instability, fearing more fracturing coming from Venezuela into Colombia. You could also see those who are fearing retaliation because perhaps they're aligned with Maduro. Then on this side, you could see a reverse migration, folks who want to go home, want to go back to Venezuela.
And a tense situation prevailed in Bengaluru's JJ Nagar after stones were allegedly pelted at Hindu religious procession. The incident caused panic among devotees and led to protests in the area following the stone pelting. Over 50 devotees and local residents gathered outside the JJ Nagar police station demanding immediate action. Protesters claim that such incidents have occurred repeatedly during religious festivals in the locality. The FIR has been registered in this incident. For more on this, we have Afreen Hussain live with us. Afreen, tell us exactly what transpired.
Well, absolutely, Haim. The chaos is said to have begun at around 8 a.m. yesterday on Sunday, when a procession of goddess Om Shakti was moving through Jagjeevan Ram Nagar, that's JJ Nagar, when the devotees claimed that miscreants from the shadows threw stones at them. There was stone pelting that was reported, and a young girl who was a devotee who was in the procession sustained head injury after the stone pelting. The devotees also alleged that this has become a very common and a recurring pattern when Hindu devotees taking out processions in the area. They suffer, similar incidents have happened in the past. Stone pelting from the other community is what the devotees have alleged. After the stone pelting, around 50 devotees and others gathered near the JJ Nagar police station and filed an FIR, after which the police have formed two special teams to find the accused. Overnight, they have been trying to find who the accused is, who are these miscreants who've thrown stones. And also, police have been deployed in the area to make sure that the sensitive areas, the pockets of the area, no mishap occurs in the sensitive pockets of the area.
Absolutely. Of course, we're given to understand that an FIR has been registered as well. What can you tell us about that?
Well, absolutely, Haim. Police are trying to make sure that no untoward incident happens going forward. And also, they're trying to gather CCTV footages, and they've also gathered information from a few local residents to find out who exactly these miscreants are who pelted stones at the procession yesterday. And also, they have deployed around 100 police personnel and Karnataka Reserve State Police platoons in the area to make sure that the security is there for the area and no untoward incident happens.
All right. Afreen, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. All right. And tensions also prevailed outside the Dhule police station in Maharashtra after a protest by members of the Sikh community turned violent, leaving 2 people injured. The protest was held over allegations related to the closure of a local Gurudwara, which the community claims has remained shut for the past 2 years. Protesters demanded that the Gurudwara be reopened to allow celebrations for the birth anniversary of Guru Gobind Singh. The situation escalated late last night with reports of stone pelting during the protest, resulting in injuries to 2 individuals. Police intervened to control the violence and have so far arrested 8 people in connection with the incident. So tensions which prevailed outside the Dhule police station in Maharashtra. This was after a protest by members of the Sikh community which turned violent, leaving 2 people injured. For more on this, we have Yasha Kotak live with us. Yasha, what can you tell us?
Absolutely. This very information comes in as there was a late night protest outside Dhule police station by the members of the Sikh community. Here, they've alleged that there is a Baba Ranveer Singh which has in fact taken charge of the Gurudwara and has locked it since the last 2 days, which, the community members are saying they want it to be open for a celebration. In fact, they've gone on to also allege that Baba Ranveer Singh in this case has murdered the former head of this Gurudwara and wants to take charge. And this is something that has not really gone well with the members of the community, as a result of which they were holding a protest. In fact, complaint has also been filed at Dhule police station about about the Gurudwara being shut for the last 2 days. Now, as a part of the protest, there was stone pelting that took place, as a result of which there was violence that broke out outside Dhule police station. The videos of which are, clearly something that the viewers can see on screen. But when the stone pelting took place, there are 2 people who've been injured. Now, there are 8 people who've been arrested by Dhule police, including Baba Ranveer Singh, who, against whom allegations are that, he's taken charge of that Gurudwara and has shut it. Yes.
All right. All right. Now, of course, really, we were also looking at here that the Gurudwara had remained shut for 2 years. What really can you tell us about that?
So yes, the reason that we speak of that this Gurudwara has been shut, so far is because there are allegations against Baba Ranveer Singh. When we speak of Baba Ranveer Singh, it is those who've been holding protests, members from the Sikh community, they've gone ahead to mention that he was the one who led to an alleged murder of their former head of the Gurudwara.
All right.
And which is where this complaint has been filed, and they and the community members have also said that this Baba Ranveer Singh is the one who's taken charge of the Gurudwara and is not loving people inside, which is where it has been shut for so long. Yes.
All right. All right, Yasha, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. Of course, we'll continue to keep a track on that as well. Let's shift our focus. Another breaking that's just coming in. Allu Arjun, who had an unpleasant experience at Nilofer Cafe when Allu Arjun and his wife Sneha Reddy visited the popular cafe in high-tech city. A large number of fans gathered to take selfies due to the crowd completely spiraling out of control. The couple faced difficulty in stepping out and getting into their car. There you can see them completely being mobbed by the crowd of